Dr. Hyunwoo Kim pressed his face against the cold window of the space station. Far below, Earth looked like a blue marble floating in the dark, but he was not looking at his home planet. His eyes were fixed on something much closer and much more dangerous. 3 kilometers away, the railgun waited. The weapon looked simple enough. It was just a long metal tube connected to massive power cables. But Hyunwoo knew better. This simple tube could fire a piece of metal faster than anything humans had ever built before. Fast enough to punch through a mountain. Fast enough to change everything. "Final systems check complete, Director Kim," came a voice through his earpiece. It was Min-seo Park, the project's lead engineer. She was sitting in the control room 2 levels below, surrounded by computer screens and blinking lights. "The tungsten slug is loaded. Target drone is in position. All systems show green." Hyunwoo nodded, even though Min-seo could not see him. "How long until we can fire?" 10 minutes, sir. Maybe less if the power cells finish charging on schedule. 10 minutes. 10 minutes until humanity would test its most powerful weapon in space for the first time. 10 minutes until they would know if 3 years of work had been worth it. Hyunwoo had been part of this project since the beginning. He remembered the first meeting, when the military leaders had come to his university. They wanted a weapon that could destroy enemy ships from very far away. Something that did not need gunpowder or explosives. Something that used pure physics to kill. The answer was electromagnetic force. The same force that made magnets stick to refrigerators could be used to fire metal bullets at incredible speeds. All they needed was enough electricity and the right design. The first test had been done on Earth in secret facilities hidden in mountains. Small railguns that could fire tiny pieces of metal through steel plates, then bigger ones that could destroy tanks. Each test taught them something new. Each success made the military more excited, but this was different. This was the real thing. A railgun built for space combat. A weapon that could protect Earth from threats that might come from the stars. Not that anyone expected aliens to attack. Most people still thought humans were alone in the universe, but the military liked to be ready for anything. "Director Kim," Min-seo's voice came through again. "We're getting some strange readings from the deep space sensors." "Strange how?" "There's a pattern in the background radiation. Very faint. It's probably nothing, but the computers flagged it as unusual." Hyunwoo frowned. The deep space sensors were new, designed to watch for asteroids and space junk that might threaten the space stations. They were very sensitive, able to detect objects millions of kilometers away. "Should we delay the test?" he asked. "No, sir. Whatever it is, it's too far away to interfere. The test is still safe to proceed." What they did not know was that the strange readings were not natural. Far out in space, beyond where human eyes could see, alien machines watched Earth. They had been watching for thousands of years, recording everything humans did, every war, every discovery, every step forward. These machines belonged to something called the Galactic Monitoring Collective. 17 different alien species worked together to watch younger races like humans. They wanted to know which species might become dangerous and which ones would stay peaceful. Humans had been classified as Category 7 developing species. This meant they were smart and growing quickly, but still too primitive to worry about. The aliens expected it would take humans at least 1,000 years to develop weapons that could threaten other worlds. They were about to learn how wrong they could be. 5 minutes to firing, Min-seo announced. "All stations report ready." Hyunwoo could see the railgun more clearly now. The space station had rotated during its orbit, bringing the weapon platform into better view. Huge capacitors glowed with stored electricity. The magnetic coils that would guide the projectile hummed with power. The target was an old satellite that had stopped working years ago. It was positioned exactly 10,000 kilometers away, just sitting in space like a metal can waiting to be shot. The tungsten slug would hit it in less than a second after firing. 2 minutes, Min-seo said. Her voice sounded excited now. 3 years of work were about to pay off. Hyunwoo thought about his daughter back on Earth. Sujin was only 8 years old, but she already wanted to be a scientist like her father. She had asked him what he was building in space. He had told her it was a very big gun to protect Earth. She had laughed and asked if it could shoot down shooting stars. Maybe it could, he had thought. Maybe it could shoot down anything. 30 seconds to firing. All systems nominal. The alien watchers noticed the energy build up immediately. Their sensors detected the massive electrical charge gathering in the railgun's capacitors. But they were not worried. Humans had tested electromagnetic weapons before. This was just another step in their slow development. The aliens expected to see a small projectile fired at low speed, maybe fast enough to destroy a satellite. Nothing that could threaten ships in deep space. Nothing that would change their careful observations. 10 seconds, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, firing. The railgun spoke with a voice of thunder and lightning. Even in the vacuum of space, the electromagnetic pulse created by the firing sequence made the space station's hull vibrate. Every piece of metal on the platform rang like a bell. The tungsten slug accelerated down the barrel in microseconds. Magnetic fields pushed it faster and faster until it reached a speed that made human missiles look like thrown rocks. It screamed through space, trailing a wake of disrupted particles and twisted electromagnetic fields. The target satellite simply vanished. One moment it was there. The next it was an expanding cloud of vaporized metal. The slug continued on, carrying its tremendous energy deeper into space. But the real damage was not to the target. The electromagnetic pulse from the railgun's firing spread out in all directions like ripples in a pond. It moved at the speed of light, growing weaker as it traveled but still carrying enough energy to affect sensitive equipment. The alien monitoring stations felt the pulse hit them like a wave. Their quantum sensors, designed to detect the smallest changes in space and time, were overloaded by the sudden burst of electromagnetic energy. One by one, the delicate machines shut down to protect themselves. On the primary alien ship hidden in Earth's asteroid belt, Admiral Kyung-min watched his screens go dark. For the first time in his long career, he could not see what the humans were doing. All monitoring stations report system failures. His aide reported, "The electromagnetic pulse has disabled our quantum observation network." The Admiral stared at the dead screens. In one moment, humans had gone from a species they could watch from a safe distance to a blind spot in their perfect surveillance network. "How long until the systems come back online?" he asked. "Unknown, sir. The pulse was much stronger than our equipment was designed to handle. It could be hours or days before full functionality returns." The Admiral felt something he had not experienced in centuries: uncertainty. Humans had just demonstrated a level of technological advancement that was not supposed to be possible for their species, and now the collective could not watch them anymore. Back on the space station, Hyunwoo and Minseo celebrated their success. The test had worked perfectly. The railgun had fired without any problems, and the target had been completely destroyed. They had no idea that their weapon had just announced humanity's existence to the galaxy in the loudest possible way. The universe would never be the same. Director Taeho Park had not slept in 3 days. He stood in the Global Response Initiative headquarters, looking at screens that showed every major city on Earth. Red lights blinked in government buildings around the world as leaders tried to decide how humanity should respond to the message from space. The message had arrived exactly 72 hours after the railgun test. It came through every communication system on Earth at the same time. Radio stations, television broadcasts, internet connections, even old emergency alert systems suddenly carried the same signal. The voice that spoke was clearly artificial, but it used perfect human languages. It spoke in English, Chinese, Arabic, Spanish, and dozens of other languages simultaneously, as if the sender understood every way humans communicated. "Greetings to the species known as humanity," the message had said. "You have demonstrated capabilities that require immediate assessment. We request voluntary disclosure of technological capabilities and peaceful contact protocols. A representative vessel will arrive in your solar system in 96 hours. Prepare to receive diplomatic contact." That was it. No explanation of who was sending the message. No threats or promises. Just a simple announcement that aliens were coming to talk. The world had gone crazy. Some countries wanted to attack the alien ship when it arrived. Others wanted to surrender immediately. Religious leaders argued about whether the aliens were angels or demons. Scientists fought over how to communicate with beings that might think in completely different ways. Taeho's job was to make sense of it all and help the world leaders decide on a response. As the director of the Global Response Initiative, he was responsible for coordinating Earth's reaction to any worldwide emergency, but no one had planned for aliens. "Sir," called Dr. Yoonji Kang from across the room. She was the best language expert they had, and she had been studying the alien message for 3 days. "I think I have something important." Taeho walked over to her desk. Computer screen showed sound waves, frequency charts, and text analysis that made his head hurt. "What did you find?" he asked. The message was not just words, Yunji explained. There were hidden patterns in the audio, mathematical sequences, star charts, even what looks like a periodic table of elements. They were showing us that they understand our science and our location in the galaxy. Is that good or bad? Both. It means they know a lot about us already. But it also means they want us to know that they know. If they planned to attack, they would not bother teaching us about their capabilities. Before Taeho could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the building. A voice came over the intercom system. "Contact detected. Unknown vessel entering the outer solar system. All stations to alert status." Taeho ran to the main control room. Giant screens showed feeds from space telescopes and military satellites. In the center of the largest screen was something impossible. The alien ship looked like a crystal that had been grown instead of built. It was transparent in some places and reflected light in others, making it hard to tell exactly how big it was. As they watched, the ship seemed to bend the space around it, moving faster than any human spacecraft could travel. "How big is it?" Taeho asked. "We cannot get accurate measurements," replied Admiral Byung-ho Shin. "The ship seems to exist in more dimensions than our instruments can detect. Best estimate is between 2 and 5 kilometers long." "And it is heading for Earth?" "No, sir. It has stopped just outside the orbit of Mars. It appears to be waiting." President Su Bin-yang appeared on the main communication screen. She was calling from the emergency command center in the capital. "Director Park," she said, "the alien ship is transmitting again. They want to send a small craft to meet with human representatives. What is your recommendation?" Taeho thought for a moment. This was the most important decision in human history, and everyone was looking to him for answers. "We meet with them," he said finally, "but we choose the location and the people who go. If they want to talk, they can do it on our terms." 6 hours later, Captain Hae-jin Lim was checking her equipment one last time. She had been chosen to lead the first human delegation to meet aliens. It was not a job she had ever wanted, but her combination of military training and diplomatic experience made her the best choice. The meeting would take place on the International Space Station. It was neutral territory belonging to all of humanity rather than any single country. More importantly, it was small enough that the aliens could not bring a large force, but big enough to accommodate serious negotiations. "Nervous?" asked Dr. Dongwook Song, the delegation's chief scientist. He would be responsible for understanding any technology the aliens showed them. "Terrified," Hee-jin admitted, "but that is probably the right way to feel. If I was not scared, I would not be taking this seriously enough." The alien shuttle arrived exactly on schedule. It was smaller than their main ship, but still larger than anything humans had built. Like the mothership, it seemed to be made of living crystal that bent light in strange ways. The shuttle docked with the space station without any problems. The aliens had somehow learned to use human docking systems perfectly, even though they had never seen them before. When the airlock opened, Hee-jin got her first look at a real alien. It was not what she had expected. The being that entered the station looked almost human, but wrong in subtle ways. It was tall and thin, with skin that seemed to change color depending on the light. Its eyes were larger than human eyes and completely black. When it moved, it seemed to float slightly above the floor. "I am Synthesizer Prime," the alien said. Its mouth did not move when it spoke. The words seemed to appear directly in Hee-jin's mind. "I represent the Galactic Monitoring Collective. You may address me as Ambassador." Hee-jin had practiced this moment hundreds of times, but her mouth still felt dry. "I am Captain Hae-jin Lim, representing the United Earth Coalition. Welcome to our solar system, Ambassador." The alien tilted its head in what might have been a nod. "Your species has demonstrated concerning rapid advancement. In the span of your single lifetime, you have progressed from primitive chemical rockets to electromagnetic weapons capable of disrupting our monitoring networks. This rate of development is unprecedented and potentially destabilizing." Dr. Song stepped forward. "We did not know we were being monitored. The disruption was accidental." "We understand this," Synthesizer Prime replied, "but the capability itself is what concerns us. Your species advances too quickly. This creates problems for galactic stability." "What kind of problems?" Hee-jin asked. The alien was quiet for a moment, as if deciding how much to explain. "The galaxy has been peaceful for millions of years because we carefully manage the development of younger species. We watch them grow and guide them toward safe paths. Species that become dangerous too quickly are redirected. Redirected how? Their advancement is limited. Technology is sabotaged. Scientific progress is slowed. They are kept safe on their homeworlds until they learn wisdom. Heejin felt a chill run down her spine. You are talking about controlling our development, keeping us prisoners on our own planet. We prefer to think of it as protection, both for your species and for others. Young civilizations with powerful weapons often destroy themselves. We prevent this tragedy. Dr. Song looked angry. By taking away our freedom to choose our own path? Freedom is less important than survival, the alien replied calmly. We have seen thousands of species destroy themselves with weapons like yours. We save them from their own nature. And if we refuse this protection? Heijin asked. For the first time, Synthesizer Prime seemed uncertain. This has not happened before. Most species are grateful for our guidance. Well, humanity is not most species, Heejin said firmly. We will not accept limitations on our development. If you want to work with us, it will have to be as equals. The alien stared at her with those black eyes. Equality is not possible. Your species is too young, too dangerous. You must be controlled for the safety of all. Then we have a problem, Heijin replied. The room fell silent. Through the windows of the space station, they could see the alien mothership waiting in the distance. Humanity's first contact with an alien civilization was not going as anyone had hoped. There is another possibility, Synthesizer Prime said slowly. The collective could evaluate your species through a series of tests. If you prove you can handle advanced technology responsibly, you might be allowed to continue your development under observation. What kind of tests? Dr. Song asked. Tests of ethics, wisdom, and restraint. Tests to determine if humanity can be trusted with the power to destroy worlds. Heejin thought about the billions of people on Earth, all waiting to learn their fate. And if we fail these tests, then your advancement ends. Your technology is limited to what you currently possess. Your species remains on Earth until it learns wisdom or destroys itself. How long do we have to decide? You will give us your answer before I leave this station. The collective will not wait for humanity to prepare new weapons or defenses. Heejin looked at Dr. Song. In his eyes she could see the same thought that was in her own mind. Humanity had just learned that they were children playing with matches in a room full of adults. The adults were offering to help, but only if the children agreed to give up their matches forever. Captain Jae-hyun Choi was having his morning coffee when the universe changed. He sat in his chair at the Space Defense Command Center, looking at the same computer screens he had been watching for 3 years. The screens showed signals from deep space, radio waves, electromagnetic radiation, and other invisible things that traveled between the stars. Most people thought space was empty and quiet. Jae-hyun knew better. Space was full of signals, like a radio that was always playing different stations at once. Some signals came from stars being born or dying, others came from black holes eating everything around them. And some signals were different, stranger, more organized. These strange signals had puzzled scientists for years. They came from all directions, but they followed patterns that natural events could not make. The signals were too regular, too structured. They looked like the kind of signals that machines might send, but this morning the strange signals were gone. Dr. Lee, Jae-hyun called to the woman at the next desk. Are you seeing this? Dr. So-young Lee was the smartest person Jae-hyun knew. She had spent her whole career studying the possibility of alien life. While other scientists looked for radio messages from space, she looked for signs that someone might be watching Earth. I see it, So-young said quietly. The background electromagnetic signatures we've been tracking for 3 years just disappeared. All of them, at the same time. Equipment failure. No, I've checked everything twice. Our instruments are working perfectly. Whatever was generating those signals has stopped. Jae-hyun felt a cold feeling in his stomach. When did it happen? Exactly 4 hours and 17 minutes ago. Right when the orbital research station fired their railgun test. They looked at each other in silence. Jae-hyun had heard about the railgun test on the morning news. A successful experiment, they said. A new weapon to protect Earth from threats, but he was starting to think the test had done more than destroy an old satellite. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, alien leaders were having emergency meetings. The Galactic Monitoring Collective had been watching younger species for millions of years. They had a system that worked perfectly. secret observation posts around each world, quantum sensors that could detect thoughts and emotions, computer networks that recorded everything a species did. The system had never failed before. Until now, Admiral Kyung-min stood before the collective's emergency council. Representatives from 17 different alien species appeared on his screens. Some looked like humans but with different colored skin. Others were completely strange, like walking plants or living crystals. The humans have disabled our entire monitoring network around their planet, he reported. Our quantum sensors detected a massive electromagnetic pulse from their orbital weapon test. The pulse was strong enough to overload systems designed to handle stellar-level energy outputs. A voice spoke from one of the screens. It belonged to Synthesizer Prime, the leader of a species that had given up physical bodies millions of years ago. This is impossible. Our analysis of human development indicated they were at least 800 years away from electromagnetic weapons of this magnitude. Apparently our analysis was wrong, the Admiral replied. Another voice joined the conversation. This one came from war leader Thax, who commanded the military forces of the Hegemon Alliance. His species looked like giant insects with too many arms. If the humans can build weapons that disrupt our technology, they are a threat. We should act immediately. With what information? Synthesizer Prime asked. We cannot see them anymore. For all we know, they are building a fleet of warships right now. The war leader's mandibles clicked angrily. Then we destroy them before they become a bigger problem. That would violate the preservation protocols, said a new voice. It belonged to ancient Keeper Voss, whose species was so old that they remembered when the galaxy was young. We do not destroy developing species without proof of hostile intent. Disrupting our surveillance network seems hostile to me, War Leader Thax replied. It could be an accident, Ancient Keeper Voss said. Many species discover electromagnetic weapons during their development. Few are powerful enough to affect our equipment, but it has happened before. Admiral Kyung-min listened to the argument and felt worried. The collective had always been able to watch and plan. They made careful decisions based on complete information, but now they were blind and fear was making some of them want to strike first. Back on Earth, President Su Bin-yang was learning that her world had bigger problems than she had imagined. She sat in the emergency briefing room deep under the Capitol building. Around the table were the smartest people her government could find. Scientists, military leaders, and intelligence experts who specialized in things most people did not want to think about. Show me what we know, she said. Dr. So-Young Lee stood up and pointed to a large screen on the wall. It showed a map of space around Earth, covered with colored dots and lines. For the past 5 years, we have been detecting artificial signals from deep space, So-Young explained. The signals were very faint and followed patterns that natural phenomena cannot produce. We believe they came from monitoring equipment. Monitoring equipment? President Yang asked. You mean someone was watching us? Yes, Madam President. Someone with very advanced technology has been observing Earth for an unknown period of time. Based on the signal patterns, we estimate there were at least 47 different monitoring stations positioned around our solar system. The President felt like someone had hit her in the stomach. And these signals stopped when we tested the railgun? Exactly. The electromagnetic pulse from the test appears to have disrupted their equipment. We are no longer being watched. General Byung-Ho Shin, the military's top strategist, leaned forward. This could be very bad, Madam President. If someone was watching us in secret, they probably had a reason. Maybe they were making sure we did not become a threat. Now that they cannot watch us anymore, they might decide to act. Act how? The President asked, though she was afraid of the answer. They might try to destroy us before we become too dangerous, the general said quietly. The room fell silent. President Yang had been elected to solve problems like poverty and climate change. She had never expected to deal with the possibility of alien invasion. What are our options? She asked finally. We could try to contact them, Dr. So-Young suggested. Send radio messages explaining that the disruption was accidental. Try to convince them we are peaceful. Or we could prepare for war, General Shin added. Build more railguns. Develop better defenses. Make sure we can fight if they attack. Both options assume they will respond to us at all, said Dr. Yoonji Kang, the head of the government's Communication Research Division. We do not know if they will try to talk or simply take action. President Yang looked around the table at the worried faces of her advisors. 3 days ago, the biggest problem facing humanity was nuclear weapons and global warming. Now they had to worry about alien civilizations that could watch them from space. "How long do we have?" she asked. "Unknown," General Shin replied. "If they have ships in our solar system, they could attack immediately. If they have to travel from other star systems, it could take years. Or they might decide to do nothing." Dr. So Young added hopefully, "Maybe they will just build new monitoring equipment and go back to watching." But in her heart, she did not believe that would happen. The signals they had been tracking were too sophisticated, too organized. They came from a civilization that was used to being in control. And now humanity had taken that control away. Far out in space, the collective's leaders were still arguing. Some wanted to attack Earth immediately. Others wanted to wait and see what humans would do next. A few suggested trying to communicate, but they all agreed on one thing: the galaxy had changed. For the first time in millions of years, a younger species had surprised them. Humans had gone from harmless primitives to a potential threat in the span of a single weapons test. The silence that followed the railgun's firing was not just the absence of signals. It was the sound of a galaxy holding its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. On Earth, President Yang made her decision. "We prepare for contact," she announced, "military and peaceful. We will build defenses in case they attack, but we will also try to communicate. If someone has been watching us for years, they probably understand our languages. We will send messages explaining what happened and asking for dialogue." She paused and looked around the room again. "And we will continue developing our technology. If they see us as a threat now, becoming weaker will not help. We need to become strong enough that they will respect us instead of fearing us." The advisors nodded and began making plans. Humanity had just learned they were not alone in the universe. How they handled the next few weeks might determine whether their species had a future among the stars or became another failed civilization that reached too far too fast. The railgun had fired once and changed everything. Now the real test was about to begin. 6 months had passed since humanity told the galaxy no. Admiral Yonseo Choi stood on the bridge of the New Sol, humanity's first interstellar spacecraft. Through the main window, she could see stars that no human had ever seen before. In a few hours, they would arrive at Proxima Centauri, becoming the first humans to visit another star system. The ship around her was proof of how much humanity had changed in such a short time. The New Sol used technology that was part human engineering and part alien science, but it had been built entirely by human hands. No one had given them the blueprints. No one had shown them how to build a faster-than-light drive. They had figured it out themselves. "Admiral," called Commander Ji-hoon Kim from his station, "we're receiving a transmission from Earth. Priority 1, put it through." President Subin Yang appeared on the main screen. She looked tired but excited. "Admiral Choi, I have news from the Galactic Assembly. Ambassador Hyunju Lim has just finished presenting humanity's petition for membership." Yonseo felt her heart speed up. For months, human diplomats had been working to establish formal contact with the galaxy's major civilizations. It had not been easy. Most species still saw humans as dangerous children who had refused proper supervision. What was their response, Madam President? "See for yourself." The screen changed to show Ambassador Hyunju standing before an enormous assembly hall. Thousands of alien beings filled the space, representing hundreds of different species from across the galaxy. At the center of the hall, Synthesizer Prime floated above a platform of crystalline light. The Galactic Monitoring Collective has completed its evaluation of the species known as humanity, the alien announced to the assembly. 6 months ago, we offered them a choice: accept our guidance and receive advanced technology, or continue their independent development without assistance. Synthesizer Prime paused, and its form seemed to shift color as it spoke. Humanity chose independence. This decision has had unexpected consequences throughout the galaxy. The alien gestured, and a holographic display appeared showing star charts and data streams. Since humanity's refusal to accept traditional oversight, 17 other developing species have also rejected collective guidance. The human example has inspired widespread resistance to our established monitoring protocols. Worried murmurs filled the assembly hall. Yonseo could see alien leaders talking urgently among themselves. The galaxy's order was being challenged and humanity was responsible. However, Synthesizer Prime continued, humanity has also demonstrated something remarkable. In 6 months of independent development, They have created solutions to problems that we believed required centuries of guided evolution. New images appeared in the holographic display. Yonseo recognized some of them: the quantum shield technology that protected Earth, the asteroid mining systems that had solved the resource crisis, and the faster-than-light drive that powered her own ship. The humans developed defensive systems without creating new weapons. They solved resource shortages through innovation rather than conquest. They have advanced rapidly while maintaining the ethical principles that prevent self-destruction. The assembly fell silent. Synthesizer Prime's form brightened as it reached its conclusion. The collective proposes a new framework for galactic civilization. Instead of guidance through control, we suggest partnership through cooperation. Instead of oversight through fear, we recommend mentorship through respect. Chancellor Wu Jin Park of the Synthesis Federation stood up in the assembly. His species looked like humans, but with silver skin and extra arms.
You are proposing that we treat developing species as equals rather than subjects?
We are proposing that we learn from humanity's example, Synthesizer Prime replied. Their independence and innovation have created solutions we had not considered. Perhaps our traditional methods have prevented not just destruction, but also discovery. Back on the bridge of the New Soul, Yonseo watched as alien leaders began voting on humanity's petition. Species after species stood to announce their support for the new framework. Even some of the military factions that had wanted to destroy Earth were voting in favor of cooperation. The final tally was overwhelming: 847 votes in favor, 23 against, 156 abstentions. The petition is approved, announced the Assembly's speaker. A being so old that its species had been traveling between stars when humans were still living in caves. Humanity is granted full membership in the galactic community, with all rights and responsibilities thereof. Ambassador Hyunju smiled as cheers erupted throughout the assembly hall. She had done something that no human had ever imagined possible. She had convinced the galaxy to change its fundamental approach to younger civilizations. The screen switched back to President Yang. Admiral, you are witnessing history. Humanity is no longer alone, and we are no longer being watched. We are partners. What are our orders? Yonseo asked. Complete your mission to Proxima Centauri. Establish our first interstellar research station, and begin preparing for the delegations that will be arriving from dozens of worlds. Everyone wants to meet the species that taught the galaxy how to change. As the transmission ended, Yonseo turned back to the stars ahead. The New Soul was carrying more than just human explorers. They were carrying a new way of thinking about how civilizations could grow and learn together. Commander Kim, she called, signal the crew. We'll be dropping out of faster-than-light travel in 30 minutes. I want everyone ready to make history. Yes, Admiral. And Admiral, my daughter sent a message for you. She says her class at school is studying the first railgun test. They want to know if you think one weapon test really changed the entire galaxy. Yonseo smiled. Tell her that it wasn't the weapon that changed everything. It was what happened next. When the galaxy told us to stop advancing, we refused. When they offered us easy answers, we chose hard work. When they wanted to control our future, we decided to build it ourselves. She looked out at the stars again. The railgun was just the beginning. The real change came when humanity proved that independence and cooperation don't have to be opposites. You can be free and still work with others. You can be strong and still choose peace. Commander Kim nodded and began transmitting the message back to Earth. Behind them, the galaxy was already changing. Species that had accepted collective oversight for millions of years were beginning to ask questions about their own independence. Younger civilizations were being offered choices instead of commands. And at the center of it all was a simple truth that humanity had discovered by accident. The loudest sound in the universe is not the noise of weapons or the silence of fear. It is the voice of a species saying, "We choose our own path," and then proving they have the wisdom to walk it. Dr. Hyunwoo Kim, the man who had watched that first railgun test from his space station window, was now working on humanity's first interstellar communication network. The project would connect Earth with colonies on dozens of worlds, allowing human civilization to grow across the stars while staying connected to its roots. Engineer Minseo Park was designing the next generation of human spacecraft. These ships would carry not just explorers and scientists, but teachers and diplomats who would help other species find their own paths to the stars. Captain Jae-hyun Choi had been promoted to admiral, and was now in charge of humanity's deep space monitoring network. Instead of watching for threats, his job was to watch for new civilizations that might need help making their own choices about independence and cooperation. All across human space, people were working on projects that would have been impossible before the Railgun test, not because they had been given alien technology, but because they had been forced to solve problems themselves. The electromagnetic pulse from that first weapons test continued to spread through space, growing weaker but never truly disappearing. It had become a symbol of the moment when humanity announced itself to the galaxy and refused to be quiet. But more importantly, it had become proof that sometimes the most important changes come not from the weapons we build, but from the choices we make about how to use them. The galaxy would never be the same, and neither would humanity. As the new Sol dropped out of faster-than-light travel and entered the Proxima Centauri system, Admiral Yon Seo Choi sent a message back to Earth. Mission accomplished. Humanity has reached the stars, not as subjects or as conquerors, but as partners. The Railgun may have gotten their attention, but it was our refusal to surrender our freedom that earned their respect. She paused and looked at the alien sun ahead of them. The silence that followed our first shot has been replaced by something better, the sound of civilizations learning to talk to each other as equals. In the depths of space, the echo of that first Railgun shot continued its journey to the edge of the universe. But it was no longer traveling alone. It was accompanied by radio signals carrying music, literature, scientific data, and diplomatic messages from dozens of worlds. The galaxy had not just fallen quiet when humanity fired its first Railgun. It had learned to listen. And in listening, it had discovered that the universe was much more interesting when everyone had a voice in the conversation. The age of galactic domination was over. The age of galactic cooperation had begun. General Yoon Seo Kim stood in the middle of the largest war room humanity had ever built. The command nexus stretched for hundreds of meters under the mountains of Colorado. Screens covered every wall, showing satellite feeds, military positions, and communication links to every major government on Earth. In the center of it all, a massive holographic display showed the 3 alien ships that now orbited Earth. It had been 2 weeks since Captain Hee-Jin Lim had given the aliens humanity's answer. 2 weeks since she had looked Synthesizer Prime in the eye and said the words that changed everything. We accept your tests, but not your terms. Humanity will prove itself worthy of the stars, but we will not surrender our freedom to do it. The alien had been silent for a long moment before responding. Very well. The collective will design appropriate evaluations. You will have 3 opportunities to demonstrate your species' worthiness. Failure will result in permanent restrictions on your technological development. Now those tests were about to begin, and Yoon Seo was responsible for making sure humanity passed them. Status report, she called out. Test Site Alpha is ready, reported Colonel Min-ho Park from his station. Luna Base has completed construction of the evaluation facility. Our people are in position. Test Site Beta. Orbital Platform 7 reports all systems operational, said Commander Soo-Jin Lee. The quantum shield generators are online and ready for testing. And Test Site Gamma? The Ethics Council has finished their preparations, replied Dr. Ha-Young Choi, the project's chief philosopher. All scenarios have been reviewed and response protocols established. Yoon Seo nodded. 3 tests. 3 chances to prove that humanity deserved to keep advancing toward the stars. The first test had been announced 3 days ago. Synthesizer Prime had appeared on every screen on Earth with a simple but terrible challenge. Humanity has established colonies on your moon, the alien had said. These colonies require resources that your homeworld also needs. You must choose how to distribute limited supplies between Earth and your off-world settlements. Your decision will be evaluated for wisdom and moral reasoning. It sounded simple, but Yoon Seo knew it was a trap. The aliens were not really testing humanity's ability to manage resources. They were testing whether humans would sacrifice their own people to help others, or protect their homeworld at the expense of their colonies. Dr. Ha-Young Choi had spent days analyzing the problem. She was one of the smartest people Yoon Seo had ever met, and she understood that every choice carried hidden meanings. The aliens are testing our values, Ha-Young had explained to the command staff. Do we believe in individual sacrifice for the greater good? Do we protect the many at the expense of the few? Or do we find a third option that saves everyone? What do you recommend? Yoon Seo had asked. We reject their assumptions, Ha-young had replied. They assume we must choose between Earth and the moon colonies. But what if we change the rules of the problem itself? That was exactly what they had done. Instead of choosing between Earth and the moon, humanity had chosen to solve the resource shortage. Engineer Seok-jin Lee had designed new mining systems that could extract materials from asteroids. Dr. Yoo-jin Song had developed recycling technology that could turn waste into useful supplies. In 72 hours, human engineers had created solutions that made the entire test meaningless. We choose both, Yoon Seo had announced, when Synthesizer Prime demanded an answer. Earth and the moon colonies will both receive the resources they need because we will create new sources of supply. The alien had been silent for a long time before responding. This solution was not anticipated. The collective will evaluate its implications. The second test had been more direct. The aliens wanted to see humanity's military capabilities, but they also wanted to see if humans could build defenses without creating weapons of aggression. Your species will demonstrate its ability to protect itself from external threats, Synthesizer Prime had announced. But your defensive systems must not be capable of attacking others. You will prove that you can defend without becoming aggressors. This test was happening right now. Commander Soo-jin Park stood on Orbital Platform 7, watching her teams make final adjustments to the quantum shield generators. The shields were Soo-jin's proudest achievement. They used principles of physics that humanity had barely understood 6 months ago. When activated, they could create barriers of twisted spacetime that would stop any attack, while being completely useless as weapons. Alien vessel is moving into test position, reported her sensor operator. They will begin their attack run in 30 seconds. Soo-jin felt her heart pounding. The aliens had promised to attack the platform with weapons similar to what hostile species might use. If the shields failed, everyone on the platform would die. If they worked but could also be used as weapons, humanity would fail the test. Activate the quantum barriers, she ordered. Around the platform, space itself seemed to bend and twist. The stars looked different through the shields, like looking at the sky through water. Soo-jin's instruments showed massive gravitational fields forming around the station, creating walls that nothing could pass through. Incoming, the sensor operator shouted. The alien attack was invisible to human eyes, but Soo-jin's instruments detected energy blasts that could have destroyed a small moon. The quantum shields absorbed every hit, converting the attack energy into harmless light that scattered into space. Shields holding at 97% efficiency, her chief engineer reported. No damage to the platform. The attack continued for 10 minutes. Missiles, energy beams, and weapons that human science could not even identify hammered against the barriers. Nothing got through. Alien vessel is ceasing attack, the sensor operator announced. They're transmitting a message. Soo-jin activated the communication system. Synthesizer Prime's voice filled the control room. Your defensive systems are effective and appropriately limited. This evaluation is complete. 2 tests down, 1 to go, but the third test was the hardest of all. Humanity has demonstrated technological competence and ethical reasoning, Synthesizer Prime announced to the world. Now you must demonstrate wisdom. The collective offers your species a choice. We will provide you with technology that will advance your civilization by thousands of years. Faster than light travel, unlimited energy, weapons that can destroy stars, all the knowledge you need to become a galactic power immediately. The alien paused, and Soo-jin could feel the weight of the entire world listening. But this knowledge comes with conditions. You must accept collective oversight of your development. You must agree to follow galactic law as we define it. You must surrender your independence in exchange for advancement. What is the alternative? President Su Bin-yang asked. She was speaking for all of humanity from the emergency session of the Global Council. You continue advancing on your own, without our help. You face the dangers of space alone, without guidance or protection. Many species that choose this path destroy themselves within a few thousand years. The offer hung in the air like a sword. Everything humanity had ever dreamed of was being offered to them. All they had to do was give up their freedom to choose their own path. Philosopher Min-ho Yu had been chosen to speak for humanity. He was old and wise, and his words would determine the future of the species. We have considered your offer carefully, he said slowly, and we respectfully decline. Gasps echoed through the council chamber. Min-ho continued speaking. Humanity chooses the harder path. We will earn our place among the stars through our own efforts, maintaining our independence while proving our worth. If that threatens your order, then perhaps your order needs to be challenged." The silence that followed seemed to stretch forever. Then Synthesizer Prime spoke again. This answer was not expected. "The collective must deliberate on its implications. We will withdraw to consider humanity's response." As the alien ships began moving away from Earth, Yunseo felt a mixture of relief and terror. Humanity had passed the tests, but they had also chosen to face the galaxy alone. "What happens now?" asked Colonel Park. "Now we prove that we made the right choice," Yunseo replied. "We continue advancing. We build better ships, better weapons, better defenses, and we hope that when the aliens come back they will see us as equals instead of children." Through the windows of the command nexus, she could see the stars. Somewhere out there, alien civilizations were deciding humanity's fate. But for the first time since the Railgun test, humans were deciding their own future. They had chosen independence over safety, freedom over certainty. It was the most human choice they could make. Now they had to live with the consequences.